going to get that started before we actually call the meeting to order. And they're getting set up right now, and after that, it's going to be a pretty quick meeting, so we won't keep you here too long. Sorry for the delay.
No, mine doesn't.
Do you know how long the presentation will be?
10 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Make sure she knows that.
Okay.
He's like, I was trying to add to it, and then she's like, okay, you can stop. Well, that rubbed me wrong for your sake. You told them what you wanted.
I'm gonna go sit over here where I can see it.
Yeah.
Somewhere around the same time.
Do we need the light stand?
If you want that, that's fine. Even, I don't know.
Is that better, just this one light?
I can't justify.
Anyone?
The lighting okay?
You guys just started?
He wants you to start.
Started, you go?
Okay, he ready now?
Yeah.
He's gonna turn it up all the way. Here it goes, Jay. Start it over.
All right. Bear with me.
This video showing homicides last year in Birmingham goes by in a few seconds, but the pain felt by those families will last a lifetime.
I feel as we need to get better. We got to do better as a people, as a race, as a entirety.
The violence is something Mayor Randall Woodfin has spoken about time and time again.
The violence out there can find its way on any of our doorsteps, of any of our front porches, and any of our front yards.
The solution to gun violence is not law enforcement alone, nor is it the city of Birmingham elected officials alone.
What we want to do, and what we need to do, is make sure, as leaders in our community, we do everything we can to decrease gun violence in our city.
Woodfin is in his second term as mayor and plans to run for a third. He first took office in November of 2017.
Discharge the duties
Of the office of mayor.
of the office of mayor.
Before he took office, Birmingham reported 92 homicides in 2015, 102 in 2016, and 111 in 2017. Woodfin spoke about the violence in his inauguration speech.
We have had enough of violence in our city. And I stand before you today to let you know, I can show you better than I can tell you. It will be different.
Here's a look at homicide totals since then. 2018, 109. 2019, 104. 2020, 126. 2021, 129. 2022, 142. 2023, 135. And 2024, the deadliest year in decades, 148.
I have people who've been lost to homicide and stuff like that, so I won't say I feel like the greatest job has been done on that part, but I do feel like, he's making an effort.
After a mass shooting in North Birmingham, some community members felt differently. They blamed city leaders for not shutting down the unlicensed venue where it happened sooner.
We got women dead now. The mayor and the councilman do not care.
2 months later, another mass shooting in 5 Points South. State Representative Wandolyn Gavan, now running for mayor, spoke out at the time.
I need the city of Birmingham to take more action. You can always shift blame to the Alabama legislature, but what are you doing to govern over crime? That needs to be the first. That needs to be the first thing.
In an October ABC 3340 poll, 80% of respondents said a change was needed in the mayor's office.
Mayor, there's been 4 police chiefs under your leadership. I know we have an interim chief right now, but how soon will we see that permanent leadership, and how many leaders within the police department is it going to take under your administration to help curb the violence?
So there have been 2 police chiefs, Chief Patrick Smith and Chief Thurman. Chief Thurman decided that he wanted to retire. And so with that, we found ourselves in a position of interim chief Michael Pickett, who's leading our department now.
But in reality, police leadership changed 4 times during Woodfin's tenure. A.C. Roper did not seek reappointment when Woodfin took office, staying a few months into 2018. Patrick Smith took over later that year, serving until 2021. Scott Thurman was promoted from interim to chief in 2022, then retired in 2024. Michael Pickett is now serving as interim chief. Woodfin did not give a timeline for appointing a permanent chief, but said this.
I want to be very clear. The focus is on making sure the police department has every available resource, 1. 2, is that leadership is equipped to actually lead and provide good morale for the boots on the ground and the men and women who are in patrol and other bureaus, including the investigation bureau. 3, it is to do 2 things: provide more police presence, as well as solve crime.
In his 2025 State of the City address, Woodfin acknowledged more work needs to be done, but said crime is down overall.
Many of you all know that we made a promise. We made a promise in 2024 to reduce crime. And the truth is, we did just that. Rapes went down. Assaults were down. Auto theft was way down. And so many other crimes were way down. But there was this one category that continued to overshadow everything else we did. And this one category is more than a category, it's more than numbers. It's lives, it's family members, it's human beings.
We requested crime data from Birmingham police to verify those numbers, but BPD says the data is not yet available. For weeks, I have been requesting an interview with Mayor Woodfin to discuss crime and other pressing issues in the city. Those requests have gone unanswered.
It's never too late. It's never too early, if you would, to write a love letter to your hometown. For me, that's the city of Birmingham. Born and raised, having the opportunity to serve and lead.
Woodfin made that statement while promoting his new book, Son of Birmingham, on national television. In the memoir, he discusses gun violence, a tragedy his own family has experienced.
I have a sense of urgency to get it right, not just for my city, but to get it right, to decrease any other mother forever feeling the way that my own mother does.
I have requested a sit-down interview with the mayor 2 more times, but once again, no response. In Birmingham, Valerie Bell, ABC 3340 News.
About 5, 6 in the morning. Stop playing. Take your
You want to play some more? Okay. We're good. That's okay.
Good evening, everyone. I know that's a bit hard to watch. As a matter of fact, what I did before, he was about to show you another video of something that's happening on the western side of Birmingham, because all the city. But first of all, let me bring you greetings on behalf of Jefferson County Commission. Some of you all may or may not know, I am your commissioner currently for this community. I graduated from McElwain Elementary School. I was sharing that with your president on my way in here. And that's actually how I became familiar with this area, is that I was bused from the west side of Birmingham and educated right over here at McElwain Elementary School. Let me get to the point. I'm sure some of you all know about me running for mayor, but I want to give you a clear delineation between, as a county commissioner, what I can do for you versus what I cannot do for you. Number one, according to Alabama state law, we cannot, for lack of better words, we cannot supersede the powers of a municipal government. So right now, there are 35 cities in which we govern, and that goes for your Mountain Brooks, your Hoovers, Homewood, and all of that, right? But the thing is that each county commissioner has certain governments that are within their purview. And so Birmingham is one of mine. I have one of 5. But when we preside as a commission. Does everyone understand that? That being said, one of the harsh realities coming out of being a city council member, I was the first black to be elected to represent the eastern side of Birmingham, which is Huffman. And then you got some other parts. But nevertheless, when I became a county commissioner, I never thought that would stop me from being able to assist 47% of my district. That's Birmingham. And your president, I was going before the CAB and discussing really where we were with regard to violent crime in Birmingham. And so he said, would you come and share it with my folk? And I want you to see it. Matter of fact, it's another video that's behind it that some of you all probably wouldn't stomach in this church, but it's going on every day in the city limits of Birmingham. And here's where we are. Jay is passing you out some information. And so for those of you all who want to know, Lashunda Scales, why are you actually running for mayor? You running because you want another notch in the belt? Tell me, what is your plan and what's your purpose? Well, first of all, let me say this. When the largest portion of your district is dying and I live here, what does that say about me if I turn a deaf ear? I could really go to the county, be very quiet, and probably would even get reelected again. I'm not taking nothing for granted, but I'm just telling you that the county is typically a quiet place. But what bothers me is that I'm living in a city that I myself too are afraid to live in. Why would you say that? I had someone in 2022, after trying to help the city of Birmingham to have a substation that I was willing to pay for, and it was going to be on Parkway East. Another would have been on Carson Road, and trying to really help our community, because y'all do know we don't have enough police officers, right? So to subsidize that, what the commission has been doing is that we've been pouring a lot of money into the sheriff's department. What ended up happening was that I had someone, of course the mayor came over, and then he says, he didn't say it in the meeting, he said it to the media, he didn't want it in the city. In fact, he said I was politicizing crime on the eastern side of Birmingham. You all do know you're out east, right? You do know what's happening at the Walmart even over here, right? Okay, so when you come furthest up east to Parkway East, it's even worse. So he said I was politicizing, and guess what happened? Didn't matter that I wanted to pay for it, was going to pay for it, the sheriff had committed to it, it was an automatic 0. Because the state law says we cannot override the city government. Even though it is positioned jurisdictionally in Jefferson County, you cannot override the city. But that was a wake-up call for me. Because I'm going to tell you, coming out of COVID, you all know that there were some really bad things that were beginning to happen, and some vulnerabilities that we saw in our communities that we had never seen before. And with that having said, I said, I am not going to support another mayor who's going to look us in the face and not do your job. See, I supported this man. Be different if I was one that never supported. I actually supported. But what I supported was the growth and development of 99 neighborhoods, that includes ours, 23 communities, that included ours, and we wouldn't have to play games against what is happening downtown and south of Birmingham. It would be all communities would receive our fair share, because guess what? We're more than voters, we're taxpayers. And as a council member, I know as a taxpayer, we pay for services. What are you paying for? You pay for police, you pay for fire, roads and transportation, park and rec, roads and transportation, public transportation, your libraries. When your libraries are closed, that doesn't help us. We are paying for that, right? So that being said, what are you planning to do, Lashunda? Number one, I'm going to tell you this. We got to be tough when it comes down to violence in our city. It doesn't matter who you are, black, white, or indifferent, rich, poor. I'm telling you, we keep making up excuses. This is years what you just saw. This wasn't just last year. This has been an ongoing issue in Birmingham, to the degree we're listed right now as one of the top 3 most violent cities in this country. Did you know that? So I want you to look at some information very quickly. I believe in paper, because I know we're being recorded. I don't want you to just take my word. Jay, where's one? Jay, can you give me one of those? I want you to look at the top. I graduated from Leadership Birmingham and Leadership Alabama. I want you to look at the very top right here. It's going to give you the history, right? I'm not going to take you. I just want you to look at it. And I want you to see where it says your major concern, violent crime, right? So when we took the 2020 census, first of all, when I left the city council, once this person was elected, it was in the hands of the city of Birmingham being number 1. You all know that, right? We've been number 1 for a long time. How many of you all know where we are right now? Where's Birmingham ranked based upon population loss? Number 4. A lot of people don't know that. You are no longer the largest city in the state. But because I write for a living, I want you to look at the city of Huntsville. See, as a county commissioner, I look at all cities, right? And what are they doing that we're not doing? So first of all, they're ranked number 1, but in 2023, how many homicides did they have? 19. You look over at 24, they had what? 18. So it could be because of the population, right? And if you look between Mobile and Montgomery, and you add Huntsville at 19, 33, and 23, you still don't get 135, and that's in 2023. In 2024, you had 18 for Huntsville, Mobile 37, Montgomery 61, 151. That video said 148. That's only because they're saying justifiable homicides, right? But if you add them all together, it was 151. But if you add 18, 37, and 61, you still do not come out with 151. Doesn't matter what we say, is what it is, okay? Now, I did a history sheet for you. When you look down here at the bottom, you will see that from 2018, okay, because 2017, this mayor said he didn't want A.C. Roper, which he and I go to Faith Chapel together. That is one of the ministers of my church. And he was very involved in the community. If you all know about his history, he walked the community, he prayed with the community, he was all on the radios and radio stations and telling us what's going on, right? But that wasn't good enough for this person. But let me tell you what happened as a result of you getting rid of him. From 2018 to 24, look at it. 107, 106, 122, 132, 144, 135, and then last year, our most deadliest year, 151. So that means that this is a leadership problem. Because if you take our officers, and we're paying between $26,000 to $28,000 to train them, yet they go right just a few blocks in this direction, and they go over to Mountain Brook, which they are, guess what happens? They're making more money, better benefits, and they probably will be making it home when they get off. That's not the case for Birmingham. That's why we're losing our officers. Right now, you're more than 500 plus officers short. Yet you've had more than 100 plus people killed per year. Am I making sense? So then that tells me, again, what's the problem, Lashunda? That means leadership. You got to have an experienced police chief that has been on every level of law enforcement, and the department has to trust and respect their leadership, and they have to have a plan. You can't fight crime being responsive. That means that you broke in Lashunda's home, and so now we're going to respond. How about we find proactive solutions so you think twice or 3 times before you break in our home? Am I making sense? And I do believe you need to punish folk. If they violate a law in your city, and yes, you're going to have some extenuating circumstances, I get that. But outside of that, this can no longer be a breeding ground for we killing people and we making up excuses for bad behavior. When you have one person that they claim to have killed 18 people, I'm sorry. That means the system failed us as taxpayers. How did you keep getting out? What made you think you could continue to kill in the city limits of Birmingham? It's because it's allowed. It's a culture. And we have grown to accept it, right? The other thing we're going to be talking about in this campaign that no one else is talking about is the fact that our water board, we talking about state takeover, right? We are a creature of the state. So when I was on the council, it was a 5-member board that the council members appointed, right? Well, William Bell wanted the law to be changed because he wanted all the power in the mayor's office. And one of the candidates, Ms. Gavan, that is running, right? She and Oliver Robinson got the law changed. It's called the Mayor Council Act. And what happened was that it gave what I call an unbalance of power. But at the same time, it expanded the water board. So it took the water board from 5 votes to 9 votes. Well, the mayor would get 2 and the council would get 4. Sounds like a majority, right? Until you put in Blount County, Shelby County, and St. Clair County, and guess what ends up happening? If the 3 vote with the mayor's 2, how many is that? Come on. Y'all can talk back to me. 5. Huh? And the majority of 9 is what? 5. So you still kept losing, right? So then the state said, guess what? We're going to use that. If you read the law, Senate Bill 330, that law establishes, first of all, it's going to count the originating county where the utility, it doesn't say Birmingham if you've read it, it says the originating county for which the utility serves, right? And that's Jefferson. But then when you put in Blount County, you put these other counties there, now we have a law that says that Birmingham, you will no longer be in charge. Guess who's going to be in charge? Come on, folk, talk to me. No, as a matter of fact, the state is not only running it, your waterworks board that you were a taxpayer and paid into this system, guess what? It's a regional board now. You need to read. Read it. Yes. So when you are a senior citizen and Scales will call and ask for assistance for certain folk, well, you got a regional board now. And Birmingham doesn't control it.
Who does?
You only have 2 votes. out of 7 votes, including the governor's office has a vote. The county now has a vote. And those other outlying counties, they have a vote. But you, as in citizens of Birmingham, you only have 2. But guess what? Something else is on the board. And that is House Bill 14. Tommy Tuberville has already said that Birmingham is his #1 priority. How many of you all heard that? Because you know this is a nonpartisan election, so it don't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, right? Okay, so that being said, House Bill 14. House Bill 14 is now to take over your police department. Birmingham fits the criteria because you are right now working under 30% or greater. And because you have a loss of officers, you fit the criteria in order for the state to take over our police department. And I've gotten on good accord. If Birmingham does not get down those numbers that you just saw, that's exactly what they're getting ready to do. That's why I'm giving you the House Bill number. You notice everybody's not been talking about that, right? Because they want you asleep. And when you're asleep, the thief comes in and steal from you and take away from you. Well, what do you think about your Birmingham Airport Authority? If I take away your water, which is your utility, if I take away your police department, what's your next valuable asset? Your airport. Yes, your airport. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And we make money directly off of it. But guess what? If the state can get their hands on that, that's exactly what they're going to do. That's not to make you fearful. It's called reading is fundamental. And if you don't read it, I got to read it because I represent you. Does that make sense? And the last thing are jobs. We got to get our community back working. And I know you all know this. Whether you go to Chick-fil-A down the road or you go to Walmart or you go anywhere else, you got a lot of people that just don't want to work. Now, some will say they're trying to find a job, right? And some won't. But with Scales, you got to go to work. Everybody got to go to work. I'm going to work, and you got to go to work too. And we're going to help these businesses that are already here, and they're hiring locally. And we want to make sure that the businesses, meaning new industry that we bring here, right? Whether it's a data center, whether it's rail, light rail, and transporting people from one destination to another, we can do that. But you got to be supported. Does that make sense? And so I can tell you up front, I want you to read this, and then I want you to read that door hanger. Because I want you to know when you see on that door hanger that the 4.06 section of the Mayor Council Act, you all always hear, you heard that video right there. Hey, you know, it's nothing I can do. It's nothing I can do. That's not what the Mayor Council Act says. In fact, the Mayor Council Act gives the mayor the power to enforce the laws and ordinances of this city. Number 2, it also allows the mayor, because I saw my beautiful lady back there in the back representing District 2, right? Your council member. Well, guess what? He can be removed, Hunter Williams can be removed from office if he gives the mayor's staff a directive. Am I right, India? Okay. So that being said, you didn't know that. So when they say, well, there's nothing out, yes you do. You run the daily operations of the city. You want your trash to be picked up. You need your garbage to be collected on time. You're tired of driving through all of this water because we have piping underneath poor infrastructure. You're like an amphitheater, but you don't care about what's happening underneath the asphalt. That's what we call infrastructure. Well, guess what? At the end of the day, the mayor controls that. Not the mayor's office, the mayor. And every department head reports to the mayor. The other thing that the mayor has the power to do is to hire the folks that are needed in order to fix your problems. Did y'all know that? Yeah, that's what the Mayor Council Act did. Because remember, we are hired to solve your problems. If we're creating a problem, we probably don't need to be representing you. Isn't that right? I wouldn't do it. And I know you look like you're smart people. You're not going to do it either. You don't hire people to create problems for you. You hire people to learn their jobs so that they can represent you to be a solution. Am I making sense? And the last thing is about they appoint to boards and agencies. That means your Birmingham Waterworks Board. That means your Birmingham Airport Authority. The council does not appoint to that board. The mayor appoints to that board. And only the mayor can appoint. Am I making sense? So I don't want to sound like I'm preaching to you. I'm talking to you because I view this side of town as home. I live on the east side of Birmingham, and I know that we have been a forgotten place. And every time we start having certain conversation, it gets to be, well, it's not so bad over there. I mean, you know, they do have this and they do have that. And I remember one time with Walmart. Y'all remember when Walmart caught on fire? Okay, and I happened to be over there, and I'm saying, really, are you serious? They set the store on fire. Goodness. And so I had to wait in the car. It's unfortunate, but true. And when you start thinking about you're only 5 minutes away from a very affluent community where property values are continuing to go up. And we have to continue to fight to keep crime down. Something is wrong with that. And when they tell you that it's happening everywhere, I can tell you as a representative of the county, it's not happening everywhere. Because if it were, you would have to ask, what does Homewood look like in terms of their police department? Are they having the same level of crime? They certainly don't have the same number of people. Why is Hoover designated as one of the most livable cities in Jefferson County? Yet the largest city in Jefferson County is listed as one of the top 10 most violent cities in the country. We got to get off that list. But you know what that's going to require? You're going to have to roll up your sleeves, and we're going to have to get to work. Your job is to learn by law what we do. That's why I keep referencing the law. I'm not into personalities. To be honest with you, no disrespect, I wish the other candidates well. I am running for Birmingham. I'm not running against an individual. I don't have time for that. I've worked for the council for 9 years when we only made $27,000. And that was before taxes. I didn't bring home $1,200 a month. I own a business, and my husband takes care of his wife, and we live within our means. Am I making sense? So it got to be because you love the city, because if I didn't love the city, I wouldn't keep fighting for the city. That love has to transfer. Am I making sense of what I'm saying? Did you all learn anything from what I've given you tonight? And I was about to say, if you have any questions for me, I told them that you're more than welcome to ask any question. There's no question that is off the table, because what I want us to know, even if I don't treat you right, don't give me 8 years. Do you know that if this person is re-elected, they will be the only mayor outside of Richard Arrington that would have gotten 3 terms? And you say, well, tell me, what building can he put his name on that Larry Langford didn't start? Yeah, I want you to think about that. Because the intermodal facility, that was established by Larry Langford. This stadium that you see, that tax infrastructure, that's why I gave you inside of here. I even gave you what you can Google the article. That came from Larry Langford. Because you can't build anything if you don't have a tax base. And this is what I keep telling people, and I'll leave you on this note. Your city, in terms of its financial growth and sustainability. You got to understand, I was sitting a part of a meeting where police and fire and their retirees, and the mayor said the city had only had an increase of $11 million, right, this year. And they were talking about their wages and can you help us, right? We're talking about the police and the fire department. They're retirees. And the mayor said, no. And they said, but you said you had this surplus. No, we've only had $11 million. Okay, well, let me explain something to you. You cannot lose your tax base with a population decline. The business community, they're leaving, and you have a surplus. Where do they do that math at? How many of you all own a business or you're in some sort of supervisory position here? So, raise your hand one more time. I see only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I want you to hear what I just said. If your population has declined, and that's what got you to number 4, right? So your tax base are your residents, because your residents are paying property taxes. Birmingham is an occupational city, occupational tax, sales tax, gasoline tax. This is how we pay for things, right? Okay, so if that be the case, if the people are leaving and the businesses are leaving, well, where are you getting the money from? That's about as blatantly as I can put it. That's why we got to go to work. Because if we don't be careful, Birmingham will be more than just number 4. You will also decline even further than where you are now. Am I making sense? So you got to have a visionary, and you got to have a person in office that knows their job. And I never forget, and I'm going to say this and be done, this mayor said, well, this person who served the longest to serve in the city hall, because he's still a lawyer, and he's crafty with words, and he said, longest person serving at City Hall, and they got nothing done for their district. I just shared with you the Mayor Council Act, right? So as a council person, your only job is to advocate for your citizens, because the power to get things done for your citizens rests with the mayor, right? And then your other job is to make sure that you set the policies of the city for the mayor to enforce. And then you pass a balanced budget with your people's needs in mind. Am I making sense? So that I can be able to stand on my record and say, I've done all that, from fighting payday and title loan places, even the fact if you see the council meeting on social media, all that's me. So I got a track record. What I am saying is, like I told him, you're going to have to run on your record now. This level fare of you the cool mayor and you the nice guy and you speak very softly, that's fine. But transactionally, that has done nothing to help us. Am I making sense? You got young families that are leaving, and I have a pastor behind me. He's a good friend of mine. He happens to be white, so let me just be very clear on that. And you know what he told me? Lashunda, I am seriously thinking about moving. I've fought long enough. And you know I'm going to be here and I'm going to support you. But Lashunda, I don't see this changing. And if it doesn't change, my wife and I have already said we're going to move, and we're not even thinking about not only Birmingham, but staying here in Jefferson County. Am I making sense of what I'm saying? So your good-hearted neighbors, they're leaving. And your children who want to be educated, and you have parents of young children, guess what? It's summertime. And a lot of them, in certain parts of the city, they're afraid to let their children go outside. Am I making sense? So remember, this is still your city. You can get locked into talking about, well, you know, we're this particular side. Okay, well, that's fine. But I live over in the Huffman community. I never thought it would get that bad, too. To have someone to try to break in your home with you there with the cars outside. Okay? And I'll never forget when Scott Thurman, and I'm calling him by name, I called 911, and as a council member, you're also an E911, meaning policymaker for a 911 dispatch. Do you know no one even came to my home. Not only did they not come, they never sent a detective the next day. In addition to that, I asked the sheriff, because I'm on the commission, I know we're in the city limits of Birmingham, but you got to take care of me, because whoever had the nerve to do that, they're going to come back. And guess what happened? In March and April, had 2 individuals. One tried to run me over in my own driving, my driveway, because I had caught them. And when they tried to get away, I dialed 911, gave a description of police, never showed up. But the sheriff's department did. And the sheriff's department caught the individuals as they were leaving my property. And I had to make a police report, right? And then in April, same incident, except I give tag number, all of that. And then I eventually spoke to Scott Thurman. I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what's happening here, but even my community has done a vote of no confidence in the East Precinct. Something's not right. Oh, Commissioner, I'm so sorry. I promise I'm going to check into it. Okay, Scott Thurman is gone. And if Scott Thurman called me, I'm not in your church. I'm a friendly ghost. That's sad. I'm a county commissioner, and even I have lost confidence. Now, I'm in a public setting. You all know that I can be fact-checked on that, right? That's why I want them to fact-check me. Because if they'll do it to me, what will they do it to you? And you may not even have the authority that I supposedly have. That's shameful. And it's not enough for me to have a sheriff to come around my home. I want the police to be at yours. You shouldn't be afraid where you live. Am I making sense? Anyone have any questions for me?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
How does the mayor get the authority to be over a police department, which I think is horrible. Did we give him the power to? Oh, did we give him the power to be in charge of the police department?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, the police chief works at the pleasure of the mayor only and reports only to the mayor. In fact, that is in this leaflet.
How does that change then?
How does that change? You don't want that to change. What you want is police oversight. And you, as a taxpayer, you need to learn the mayor and the council's job. And when they don't do right, you're so involved in your community and in our city government, you're going to come down there and then you vote us out. You vote people in and you vote them out. Yeah, because you got a voice. You pay the salary. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay. You pay everybody's salary that I just said.
But it just...
Do we pay the Birmingham Airport Authority salary?
So they have their own budget, which is why I was talking about the state at some point will probably look at it because they have their own budget, which they receive federal dollars. Because you're talking about federal aviation, right? Okay, and so, but we, as in the mayor, has the appointment to that board. Am I making sense?
I just, I'm just, my grievance would be that the past president of the Birmingham Airport Authority made more money than JFK, New York, Atlanta, O'Hare, made more money than none of those guys. That, to me, just doesn't make any sense.
Because of the board members that were appointed to that board. And that's why I wanted you to know. See, I'm even giving you what you need to hold me accountable for. Matter of fact, to be honest with you, that's why myself and this mayor don't see eye to eye. It's easy to say, hold me accountable, when you know I don't know by law what your job is. I can say what I think. But when I know you and only you have the authority, in fact, the council only confirms who the mayor appoints to that board. Am I making sense? So the board is who determines the salary of the executive director of the Birmingham Airport Authority. No different than Birmingham, Jefferson County, we call it BJCTA. Okay, so then there's an appointment to that board, and the board determines who the executive director is and what their salary is. That's why you have to have business-minded people who understand the comparables, just like you said. See, for me, if you said Birmingham is number 4, that's one set of rules. But the business part of me says, yeah, but hold on. Let me look at their crime statistics. Because right now, Huntsville is busting out of the seams with jobs. They're growing by leaps and bounds. As a matter of fact, they're not even referred as Huntsville, Alabama. They're Huntsville, USA, if you didn't know. Okay? So for me, I want to know what is the difference between them and us. And what can we learn from them that we need to implement so that Birmingham can grow and be better. Does that make sense?
I didn't know that the board determined their salary.
Oh, you're more than welcome, sir. That's what I'm here for. Anyone else?
Birmingham police work at the airport.
Birmingham police work at the airport, but they are instructed by the police chief because that's a part of their assignment. But the chief, if you had an issue with it, still is responsible for those officers who are out there assigned to the airport. Yes, ma'am. So are we talking about Alabama Department of Transportation? So they have come up with these different names. I'm going to be honest with you. I wanted to make sure I have a clarity because ALDOT obviously is the state. So when we start talking about Department of Transportation, I'm listening for, are you talking about on the federal level or state level? But when it comes down to the city, let me just tell you something. As I knew that department to be, it really was roads and transportation. I think they came up with fancy names just so it can make you think that they're doing these big things, but it doesn't matter if the roads are still unsafe. New name, lipstick on a pig. Absolutely. Always remember this. Every department head works at the pleasure of the mayor. The fire chief, the police chief, economic development, roads and trans, even to the staff, listen to me, staff of the libraries, right? Parks and recreation staff. All of these folk work, if they are department head and they are employees, period, of the city of Birmingham, they work at the pleasure of the mayor. That's why when you keep hearing what I cannot do, that's not true. And I'm sure, because I know we're recorded and I like it, he's going to come and try to defend himself because he doesn't live too far from here. But this is what I tell people, shame on you when your neighbors don't tell you the truth. That's why I'm giving you something in writing. You all are very smart, and I want you to take this information and Google everything that I have presented, because once you know better, you can vote better. And then you can hold people accountable and not let it go on and on and on. You got to know this for me. When I came out of 8 years of do nothing from William Bell, because I came in as Larry Langford was leaving, right? But I was a part of the council that helped to fund the projects that are here today, that Larry can't speak for himself because he's not here. But do nothing from William, and then 8 years of do nothing here, that's 16 years. And I'm sorry, I don't have 16 years to lose, and you don't either. Okay. Yes, sir.
So what, for example, are Huntsville or Mobile doing that we're not doing that you would implement?
Absolutely. What they're doing is they're investing in what they deem to be a priority. We said that fighting crime is a priority. All you got to do is look at the budget. The budget doesn't reflect that. I've learned that too since I've been at the county. Successful cities invest in their priorities. If you say education is a priority, then you shouldn't struggle to invest. Am I making sense? Neighborhood growth and development, if that's what you say is a priority for your city, then you should put neighborhood funds or neighborhood funding in that place. And that's what I have found, not only for Huntsville, but even the growth of Mobile. I'll never forget, I was telling someone when I was in Leadership, Alabama, I said, Mobile is going to outgrow Birmingham. And I'll never forget, a businessman told me, he said, oh no, Lashunda, they've been doing that for years. I said, I watched them. I went there and I looked at their port. And on their port, they had a rail system. But in addition to the rail system, because they're already doing international trade, they also were in the process of building their own airport. So these are priorities for them, that they want economic development in their city. Then I listened to the mayor when we went to his home. He wanted to keep young minds in terms of jobs. He wanted to make sure that they were there in the city, right? So what he did was he started creating incubators, business incubators, where they could become entrepreneurs and then be able to hire based upon new technologies such as AI, such as other things that we know that are developing here in the country. And that's how they're growing. They're investing, sir. And the difference is Scales will invest your money. It's your money, not mine. We will invest in our police department. We will invest in our neighborhoods. We want to see them grow. We got to put money there. Am I making sense? And as a council member, I'm not saying anything differently than I did. I used to say that all the time. Yeah, because it was very simple for me. It's a good thing when you go into the council, especially when there's no money, no real money on the table. Yeah, got to really be committed. Anyone else?
What does the mayor report to?
No one but you. You, the taxpayer.
He has no boss?
No. No, you're the boss.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I keep saying that. Because a lot of times you think that there is no recourse, but what I'm telling you, you all are all of our bosses. In fact, he met me giving a presentation, I said, at a neighborhood meeting. But I've had meetings at this church, even with groups of neighborhood officers, because I want them to know and I want them to learn. But if you don't know any better, you will continue to hear the soft conversations and you'll think to yourself, well, maybe they can't do something. Well, I'm sorry, maybe the mayor of Huntsville get it. Maybe the mayor of Hoover gets it. And these other mayors, they're getting it. Matter of fact, Charlesville have their own entertainment district. You really think they care about our amphitheater? No. They're going to let their families go where they can think that those folk are going to be safe and they're not going to be shot while they're there. As ironically as I just said. Because if you go over there, how many of you all have been near the amphitheater? You been there recently? Did you see that tall, high debris that's right there at the front entrance? My father started the first outdoor concerts. I typically never talk about him politically, because I stand on my own record. But my dad has promoted folks like Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and some other folk, okay? And I was so embarrassed that we thought it was good to open an amphitheater with rebar and all of this other concrete, and it's mountain tall high, if you know what Caraway Hospital once looked like, and they just got to sit there and well, when is it going to be removed? Well, we don't know. We don't have the money. Well, since you didn't have the money, you should not have hurried up and built this facility and look at it. Because these other cities, they're competing with us. That's the reason why we're losing people. Anything else? Anyone else?
That should have been part of the budget, if you take that down.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, to be very candid with you, it was supposed to have been a public-private partnership. But your tax dollars went to fund this project. And guess what? And Birmingham doesn't even manage it. Isn't that silly? Put $90 million in a stadium that you don't own, you don't manage, and the BJCC has full autonomy. And when people say, well, she's not progressive, yes, I am. It's called, you build your own facilities, you have Legion Field. If you don't like Legion Field, then you need to tear it down and build it where everybody wants to go. But it will be owned by the city, managed by the city, and the profits received will go into the coffers of the city. Why does that matter? How can we repair your roads? How can we pay for the infrastructure that we see are problems in this city when you don't manage anything? All the money is coming through the city, but it's not coming to the city. Am I making sense? Are you learning anything?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to learn. I want you to learn, and I want you to hold us all accountable, because she said something. I really don't think you all know that you're the boss. I think that you're just a taxpayer, and you just go vote every 4 years. Let me tell you a little trick in politics. Do you all know you vote every year? Did you know that? Did you know that? Okay, well, what race is next year?
Next year?
Yes. So mayor this year, governor next year, and then you're going to have another election after then, and then you're going to have another election, and guess what happens? And all you know is I'm just going to vote. No, you the taxpayer, you the boss. I'm going to leave you all with this. If you go to a restaurant and the food is not good, the waiter or waitress, they decide that they wanted to come with some nasty pants or nasty whatever, and they decide that they're going to put their hands all over your food, and you don't like the service overall. What do? Who do you register your complaint with?
The manager.
The manager. And then if the manager does not respond, then you do what?
Don't pay.
You don't pay. Anyone else? You call corporate. And if corporate doesn't respond, then what? Then Facebook. And if you don't get what you need from Facebook, then what? Okay, so can I tell you how to kill it in short? We're going to not the waiter or the waitress, we go to the management. Management doesn't respond, we go to corporate. Corporate doesn't respond, we demand that it close in our community. You're giving too many steps. That's the reason why good communities eventually are torn down. Am I making sense? You're the boss. If you don't like what you're receiving, then you fire and then hire what you need. Am I making sense? And it should not be that just because a person sounds good, you do know that can only last for so long, right? Okay, my grandmother used to tell me, if you listen to a person long enough, they'll tell on themselves. All you got to do is use your 2 ears. That's why God gave them to you. 1 mouth, 2 ears. Listen very carefully to what they don't say. Now, I can tell you something, and he and I talked about this, and I'll be done. When this video was shown at the city, you best believe people got phone calls. Why are you calling neighborhood officers? Why don't you fix what is happening in this city? Stop making up excuses. Because guess what's happening? Last year, someone went on a book tour, but they could have used the city's resources to write your crime plan. Yeah. You were out with our former vice president because you thought you were going to leave Birmingham and get you a seat there. I understand that, but it was our most deadliest year, and that's your response. Now, you all are going to have to decide August 26th, do you want 4 more years of that? Because you're going to have to live with that. I'm going to be honest with you about me. I'm not going to continue to hear complaints when I know we have the power to fix it. And you do the same for me. If Lashunda Scales does not work for you, she just gave you her job description, fire her. Can you go to work or own a business and you have someone working for you and 4 years they remain on the payroll and they didn't have to come to work? I'm asking a question. Can they, do you know where they do that at? Because maybe I need to stop doing what I'm doing and go to that job. I understand. And that's why a lot of them don't have a job. So that's all that I'm saying in short. You're the boss. I want you to study, know as much as possible, and more importantly, when you go to vote for anyone, don't go by what someone says. That's one of the first things that I learned in this area of government. Watch what they do, not what they say. They say a lot of good things. Watch what they do. Anyone else have any questions?
You walk talks louder than you talk talks. You've heard that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my grandmother used to say, walk softly and carry a big stick. I choose to do that. Walk softly and let your work speak for you. Your work and your name will precede you. If you do what you're supposed to do, you don't ever have to have any regrets. Am I making sense? Anyone else?
What do we have, 4 candidates?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
several.
I saw another name the other day, it's like,
Yes, ma'am, several.
oh, okay.
So I want you all, if you don't mind, take a number. Well, it's a number that is on that leaflet. I want you to feel comfortable in calling, and most importantly, I want you to look up some things. And yes, sir, forgive me.
No, that's all right. I did have something that I thought was a glaring omission on your part. In my mind, the problem with Birmingham is the horrendously bad school system. When I heard the other day that in the 3rd grade, I believe they are tested for their reading proficiency, and anybody that can't pass this test is held back. 2,100 students, 3rd grade students in Birmingham, 300 could not pass. That to me is the root of the problem. Until the education system gets fixed, all the rest of it's just political rhetoric.
So can I share this with you? Want you to look on?
I'm sorry.
Okay. I just want you to look on the back of this because, see, I have invested more than $1 million in Birmingham City Schools. You'll see that this is one of the contributing factors. You're saying it right.
It's not working.
Yeah, well, guess what? I agree. And as a matter of fact, I can say it because I give your tax dollars to schools in Birmingham. And one of the things that I know is that this city, it never happened when I was a council member, put $0 into classroom education. All you all have been hearing about is Birmingham Promise.
Yeah.
$0 are going into the classroom. And can I be honest with you, sir? That's been one of the main reasons that I fight so hard in Birmingham, because I put so much of myself in these students. And you know, I'm telling the superintendent, don't mind if you tell him, I've told him our children are not performing. The state is building 3 mega prisons on a 3rd grade reading level. And our children are not performing. And you know what? I've heard all the excuses in the world, and then they cap it with Birmingham Promise. I agree with you. And if we don't talk about root causes, all we'll be talking about in the future are some of the things that are offsprings of the root causes. Am I making sense? That's why I'm giving you this. I want you to be able to ask the mayor. Because he's going to tell you, no, we've had the Birmingham Promise and all that. Okay, that's fine. But you gave $0 for education. You gave $2 million for a Birmingham Promise that all children do not receive. $1 million million for financial literacy, and it doesn't matter if these children like ours bust from the ghetto to over here. Doesn't matter about financial literacy if I can't read, write, and do basic math. Same apply to mental health. You don't send your child to school for mental therapy, you send them to a therapist. So who are you really financing? These consultants? That's why I put this on the back. So you and I actually agree.
I didn't hear it in your platform.
I didn't put education, you know why? Because you all are also, in District 2, you have a board member. Nicole Williams. Not Nicole Williams. What's her name? No, that's your council member. I'm talking about your board members. And I'm going to get it to you. But you have a board member, and that's why I didn't talk about it, because that's the other thing, is that people who are running that don't know the job of the mayor, they're going to talk about all the things that they know they don't control. You don't control the school system. You know why? Because we now have an elected school board. So you can't tell the superintendent what to do, but I can tell you this. The Jefferson County is building a $90 million school, and someone tried to debate me on the fact that they have an IB program that we're building in the county at the old Fultondale High School. And guess what? It's grades 6 through 12. So where you could go from McElwain to Putnam, and they're going to take our best and brightest, and it's for any Jefferson County resident. If they can test and be a part of the IB program, it will no longer be at Shades Valley High School. They will be able to go to that school. So you and I agree. And I'm glad you brought that up. But you have an elected school board, and I want you to review them the same. Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you all for your time tonight. And I want you to know you mean a lot to me. I'm not just coming because of that. I have my own meetings with your neighborhood officers right there over in another room. And we talk about things that are near and dear to you. But this election is so critical. If the state takes over your police department, I'm sorry, that's not a good fix. You don't want that. And if they continue on, Birmingham won't have to worry about having a mayor and a city council. Birmingham will be a regional government. Y'all hear me? They've already experimented with your waterworks board. And it's now a regional, Central Alabama regional board. And it will become the same with your city. So like I said, if you like what you got, you like the excuses you're getting. But if you want somebody that's going to roll up the sleeves and work, and as most of my folk would say in my district, you got fire in your belly, I'm that girl. And you hold me accountable for everything that I say. But I don't want you to be weak. I want you to be educated. And I want you to hold everyone, including myself, accountable to do their job.
You like Pickett? What's your opinion of Pickett?
What's my opinion of Pickett? If he does his job, he'll have a job.
Thank you.
Oh, I like it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, I'm going to gavel the meeting into order. And I'm going to ask everyone to please be sure and sign in the sheets on the back. And can I get a motion to accept the agenda?
There's a motion to accept the agenda.
Can I have your name?
Doug
Can I have your name?
Doug
Carmichael.
Okay.
Sorry.
Barbara White.
Stay there.
Can I have a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting? Barbara
I second. Doug Carmichael.
and Doug. Thank you. All right, let's start with my favorite person, India. Is she still here? All right. Well, yeah, we had, that was, I don't think there was a lot to keep us up to speed. We wanted to get a update on the starting date of that drain project, which is, I think, 6 weeks behind now. I'll see if I can get that. Let's move on to Josh Goodwin, who's going to give a presentation on a new zoning commission that we would like to establish for the neighborhood association.
Okay, so this is a proposal for a zoning board committee. This is for the neighborhood. This is for, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
A little bit louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. This is a proposal for the zoning board committee for our neighborhood. This is basically a way for us to gather information more efficiently. It'll be an officially recognized committee with the city of Birmingham, gives us a direct conduit with the city of Birmingham, helps us to gather information ahead of time, basically to prevent surprises, to get us up to speed quicker, and gives us an opportunity to have, instead of having a dramatic last-minute vote on things that are very important, it gives us a way to gather information, be on top of things instead of, ahead of the curve instead of behind the curve. And so this is going, if you've not seen it yet, it's going to be on the website. It's very detailed, but it's actually, all of the neighborhoods should have this, but really right now, I think Highland Park is one of the main ones that, there might be another one that has one, but this is a template, from the Highland Park neighborhood, that's been very effective and has, gathered a lot of attention, for themselves and their ability to prevent problems and also to, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I gotta talk that close to it? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But this is basically, this is something that's already proven with other neighborhoods. Highland Park most notably has had great success with it, but it's a proposal for a zoning board committee that would be able to gather information ahead of time, or as soon as things are proposed, to where we would have much more information and have much more lead time that would prevent drama. And so that's what this is, that's the purpose of it.
I don't quite understand. Are we forming another board to? Are we forming another board on top of the board?
It's within,
No.
this is within, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
this is within the Crestline Neighborhood Association. This is under the Crestline Neighborhood Association.
Just us. What about the other associations in this area?
This is only ours. So all 99 neighborhoods could do this. But we want to do this, and all of them should, but this will be for us.
It'll be a board. Who will pick the board?
We will.
Who's we?
The president will appoint the members.
Oh.
So then the president will pick all the members?
The president will be, I think we've written it out where the members will advise the president on membership. But yeah, the president will make the
And
decision.
the
I have a
president,
question, sorry. Point of order, I have a question, I raised my hand. On this committee, is this gonna be filled with residents of this neighborhood?
Yes. Yes.
So, do you want to speak on that?
And what, is this committee gonna be made up of residents of this neighborhood?
So,
So if you were not a resident, but you were on this committee beforehand, are you automatically off the committee?
I think, I don't know that that's necessarily established. I think the idea is that we don't want to necessarily limit it to only citizens of Crestline if there could be someone from outside who has something really special to offer.
Yes, so if this is under our Crestline neighborhood,
Correct.
it should only be inclusive of residents of this neighborhood, correct?
Unless we find someone who we think that may have something special.
Do you have that documented in your committee proposal of who is allowed to be on the committee and that residential stipulation?
Yes, and we can also take this whole proposal under advisement and,
That would be great.
yeah.
I'm Barbara White. I've been president of this group for a very long time. Get too much, but ever since I was, Sandra Storm made me run for president here, and we had to okay, liquor licenses and variances, Todd got, and different things that we knew zip
agree, thank you. Morris Newman is gonna, well, why don't you give your resume? He's our advisor on the committee.
Can we give him
He's not a resident in the neighborhood.
Can we have residents ask questions before he presents?
Yes.
Because he's not a resident.
He's answering the question.
But I'm, yeah, right. Let me do full disclosure, okay? And jumping a little bit ahead here. We were working on this, quite frankly, just a couple of hours ago. Yes, it's based on the Highland Park paradigm, which I implemented when I was Highland Park president way back in 1992. That's right, I was never president when I was 3 years old. Anyway, it's been very successful at Highland Park, and basically the idea is that it's a committee, actually. It's not a board, because it doesn't have decision-making authority. All it's going to do is provide an opportunity for developers or homeowners, whoever has something which might be going before the city, to the zoning board, or to potentially zoning changes, so the neighborhood has an opportunity to look into it and investigate it. And then that committee comes here to the neighborhood meetings to ask the neighborhood to give their official opinion about how the matter should be handled. Okay, this that we cobbled together today, I understand you're making it as a motion, but I also understand that it's not to be voted on tonight. The idea is to give the neighborhood, all of you here and everybody else, an opportunity to review it between now and your next meeting, then have a discussion at the next meeting. Perhaps there might be some amendments that you do to it, right? But the vote would occur then. Someone asked about, it might have been you, ma'am, about, would the committee members be limited to those who reside in the neighborhood? Okay, that's something that is something you might want to review. The way that it's currently written up is that it would be a minimum of 5 members, all of whom either have to literally reside in this community, in this neighborhood, or own property, or own a business in this neighborhood. But those latter 2 categories would be limited to just 2 members, so that it's dominated at all times by people who literally live here. Now, maybe the community should say, you have to actually live here to be a member of this committee. That's, within your rights to do this, okay? That's why, as we discussed earlier today, it isn't really appropriate to just dump this on you tonight, okay, and say vote on it. Kind of mimicking the problem that we're trying to address with this, right? Instead, take a look at it. I recommend that if you have issues with it, you let your neighborhood president know. Don't wait till the next meeting, right? Let's work on this thing, right? I'm not going to say this is perfect, right? It basically mimics what Highland Park does, but this is Crestline. And, if you see something in here that you think, hey, this looks great, but I know something that'd be greater, let Todd know, okay? If you see something in here that you think is problematic, let Todd know. And we'll work on it between now and the next meeting, and then have a fuller discussion, at that time. But again, hang on a second, sir. But again, the point of this is to allow for advanced investigations of cases and matters that are coming before you, so that you can be better informed to make decisions about recommendations. Hang on one second, ma'am. You got a question, sir?
Yes. How many members are on this committee? It doesn't say, I think it indicated 5, but it doesn't say it here.
That's right. The proposal that's before you right now is that it would be a minimum of 5, but do we want to have an upper limit on it, right? It could very well be that, Todd appoints the first 5, and then someone great comes in, and you want to add them, right? Should they be prohibited from joining because all the slots are taken? Again, that's for something for this community to decide. Do you want to set it at a set number, or do you want to allow it to be open? It's your choice. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just want to make a point of order, and I don't mean this to be offensive to you, but you are not, are you a business owner in our neighborhood?
No.
Are you an owner in our neighborhood?
No.
Are you a resident of our neighborhood?
No.
So I don't mean this to be offensive, but we really need people that are talking about this committee to be residents of this neighborhood or be a part of this neighborhood association, and not a guest visitor to be advising all of us on this committee. I don't mean that to be offensive to you. I realize and I have heard that you've been very helpful to Todd, but really we need Todd and Josh and the residents of this neighborhood to drive and answer questions about this committee, and not someone that's not a part of our neighborhood association.
Yeah, fair enough. I would just say that, again, this is designed to follow the paradigm of Highland Park, which I've been involved with for 30 some odd years. And a primary focus of this, of course, are things that are going before the city zoning board, which I was a member for 19 years. But you're absolutely, so I'm just an advisor to them, okay?
I'll make a point of order. We don't need to be reinventing the wheel. I like the fact that we can stand on someone else's shoulders to help us and advise us. So I'm all for you helping and advising. I think that's a common sense move, and it'll make us be a little bit better.
Thank you. And I have no decision-making authority whatsoever. This is for you folks to decide.
It's just bias.
You're an advisor.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question actually for Todd, I guess, and Josh. So, you know, right now we're not allowed to have elections in our neighborhood, and because of the mess of the city. So right now you've got it written in this board is at the sole discretion of the president. And no offense to you at all, but you could see where this could morph into a situation where we have a president for 10 years, you know, Todd's like, no, probably be not a neighborhood. And you can never undo that. And so
Do you have a suggestion on who you think should make it?
Yes, I think you could go into Scales education over here. I mean, would you be open, I know you're the one driving this right now, but would you open to consider like the neighborhood association approving them? Or at least half? I mean, I just don't think it's fair
I'll consider
for
anything.
you to be in a position where you get accused of home cooking and to keep you out of trouble. But then it also, what if the neighborhood doesn't agree with you? We actually have no way to unseat the president. We're locked, Todd's our president for life at this point.
Good point.
So I just think to be fair to everybody, it should be not at your sole discretion.
No, I was actually interested in trying to find a way
Yeah,
where I'm
I
not
think-
actually the one making the
I think that's
decisions.
a better, and I can think, and Highland Park is so different than Crestline Park. There's so much more uses going on over there, but I do think, don't reinvent the model, it's worked for me. But I do think we should allow community input, especially considering the fact that we have no control. You may be our president for 10 years.
It could be that you do
I doubt it.
Yeah. Until he moves out.
Approve it, and if they're allowed
Yeah,
to make
I-
it.
You know, I mean, I'm not saying that you would make a
No,
bad decision.
I think you're-
I think it protects you and it protects the neighborhood.
I think it's a great idea.
So you're not getting 400 text messages a day saying that, you know, we disagree.
Right. Can I make a
I
suggestion?
didn't catch your name.
Oh, Amy McDonald.
Oh, okay.
These are the exact sorts of things I want you folks to look at, and then, you know, one of my mantras is, don't just tell me about problems, tell me about solutions, right? The solution might be completely crazy, but it opens up the box, it opens up your mind, right? So maybe what it is, you know, the president makes the nominations, you folks have to approve it, you then at the meeting where someone's being brought on can make a nomination from the floor. I don't know, but this is the point right now, right? We did our best we could in putting this together, but I know it's not perfect. You folks need to look at it, and again, if you see something like what you're talking about, that maybe there's a better way to do it, go ahead and submit it to Todd, and then at the next meeting, you can have a full debate. You know, should we do it like this, should we do it like that? That's totally
But
cool.
the next meeting will be too late, because
That's the fact.
Yeah.
it's obvious how this started, the church property. What's to say I want to build a shed in my backyard? Am I gonna have to come to the neighborhood association, zoning committee and get it approved? Then go to the city and get it approved? If I want a variance of some sort, do I have to now go 2 steps to get this done?
Okay, the answer to that is, first of all, like you said, if you're building a shed in your backyard, and it does not require any action by the city, in other words, going to the zoning board for a variance or whatever, then it wouldn't necessarily come to this committee, okay? Remember, the committee, let's back up a little bit. The authority to grant variances or anything else that's under the ZBA is solely within the purview of the ZBA. And drop it back one step. The city's policy is that anything that is going to the ZBA first gets presented to the neighborhood association for them to advise the ZBA, okay? But that doesn't necessarily hold it up, right? In other words, if Todd gets notified that there's a case coming up to the ZBA and he doesn't respond to it, the ZBA is gonna hold the hearing and make a decision. So it'd be the same kind of thing here. What we're trying to do is, you know, if you're building a shed and it's gonna need ZBA approval, We don't, with all due respect, want a situation, or Todd doesn't, and Josh, where you're coming to a neighborhood meeting, nobody's heard anything about it, you got a ZBA hearing next week, and so now you're trying to get a decision, right? Instead, what it would be is, you know, in those few weeks before the neighborhood meeting, you would let the committee know, the committee would look into it, and then very quickly thereafter, there'd be the neighborhood meeting like here. Committee would present its report, you would speak, others would speak, then there'd be a vote right then, you know, to advise the ZBA on what the neighborhood's position is. So it's just an opportunity for folks to look into this in a little bit more detail in advance, but it is not intended by any stretch to slow things down.
Wait a minute, you said that they advise the ZBA, but the ZBA can say, hey, listen, we're gonna do something regardless of what you said.
That's absolutely correct. Now, actually, wait, the committee does not, this committee would not advise ZBA. This committee would advise you folks at a neighborhood meeting. Then the neighborhood advises the ZBA of your position on things. But ZBA is not bound by what the neighborhood recommends. In fact, as I understand, you're nodding your head, state law, I understand, actually says that if the ZBA were to say, well, you know what, Crestline wants this, that, or the other, so that's what we're gonna do. Well, that's overturnable by court. Okay?
So the zoning board could basically say, regardless if we all voted on the church, for example, ZBA could say, no, we don't want it because somebody elected 5 people to represent all of us and tell us what we want and what we don't want.
No, ZBA is strictly bound by the parameters within the zoning code, okay? They want to hear from the neighborhoods because the neighborhoods are on the ground and can help them inform their decision. But the decision is solely the responsibility of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. That's just the way it works.
And all that's gonna be based off the 5 people that Todd elects?
Not at all, because this committee would not be representing the neighborhood at ZBA, okay? Rather, the decision by this group, based on what they hear from the committee, what they hear from the applicant, what they hear from other people from the neighborhood or whoever else, what Todd would then be doing after he gets that from you folks is he prepares a document for the city saying the neighborhood voted 62-2, right? In favor of something or against it, and it could and should flesh out the rationale both for and against it. But that's what goes to the city. This committee isn't going to represent you at the city. Your neighborhood officers do based on the document that they submit to ZBA. Yes, ma'am.
So, to Tad's point, how is that any different than what we just went through with the church variant?
Oh, I can get that.
outside of
I can
having
answer
a
that.
committee?
Okay, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
So when the property was first purchased by David Silverstein, he was coming to show a presentation. He was going to ask for a zoning change. We happened to find out about it ahead of time, which got 200 people here instead of what? Huh?
That's not accurate.
We found out ahead of time that we were going to have the
He
meeting.
actually came and presented months in advance, so that's not actually accurate.
We did not have months in advance notice that we were going to get a zoning change.
There is a timeline.
He presented a plan for homes to
The
us.
president and other members met with him at least a month, maybe 2.
100%, and that was the
and
problem.
decided not to bring it before.
That was the problem, because what would happen now, if David Silverstein comes to us and wants to, say just, we went back in time, it would not be secret meetings with the neighborhood association. His proposal would go to this committee. The committee would study it for a month before we have any sort of decision about it, and then they would come and present to the neighborhood
So
association.
Our elected committee, which was based on this document, does not exist today.
He's not elected.
No, my zoning committee has quit recently.
Whoever you choose, but we, I guess, are gonna have to motion to have this document updated so that it's not all reliant on you to choose these 5 people.
Yeah, it's a proposal and we can make
Ideally,
changes to
these
it.
5 people would be comprised of our neighborhood or have some stake in our neighborhood as a
Of course.
whole. And so essentially, I'm still lost on how the process was because David Silverstein brought it to our neighborhood president at the time, presented to our neighborhood president at the time.
very important.
Why is that important, and why do we need that? What is the point of that?
Because if we hadn't had this, and because we got very lucky, honestly, that we didn't have the apartments built. If we had had 8 people here and had that proposal, they would have voted for
Yeah,
it.
I think that was very advantageous behavior and predatory behavior of David Silverstein.
100%.
I do not think the St. Peter's Anglican Church exhibited the same type of behavior. And they followed the normal procedures and processes in terms of notifying our neighborhood president of the variance that they were requested. We were informed and had a meeting with them, and then 2 weeks later, we had an ad hoc meeting where we voted on that variance, and we had a number of counts, yays, nays, and abstained, that we sent to the city. So I'm still confused as to why this committee would be of any kind of value in terms of addressing the ZAB on any of these issues, when it seems like we don't have a party that is advantageous and predatory. It follows the normal process, and the neighborhood was represented appropriately.
Would this help us hear about the trail ahead of time?
Yeah, we would have, if the committee was established back when the trail was first voted on, we would have had a folder. It would have been updated when the funding came through, and everyone would have been much more informed, yes.
Well, personally, I'm sorry, I think that is a city issue. I think if they voted on this trail 10 years ago, right? I think they should have a period of time, whether they build it or not, do the project, or it's gotta go back.
Yeah, but there's no reason that we shouldn't be fully up to speed on it and have it in our records.
Well, we talked about the trail months ago, before it ever got any funding, really.
I think it was established in 2017 or 2016.
No,
So-
there was rumors about it, because we talked about it at one of our meetings one night, about how ridiculous the $1,000 bridges were gonna be and stuff. So, we knew about it,
Does,
but it was out there.
does the city recognize, like, from your experience in Allen, or do they recognize these, and like, timber zoning work provide?
Yeah, the CPP allows us to make the committees, yes.
But to answer your overarching question, the intent of this is to enhance openness and information flow, okay? As you look through this, and again, you haven't had a chance to really parse it, right? And yeah, right, I mean, we finished working on this about 3 hours ago, right? So,
After several weeks, I mean,
right, but there were some last minute things, but the basic concept has been there all along. The idea is to enhance the knowledge for all of you as to what's going on, okay? In a sense, what you've described with the situation with the church and with Mr. Silverstein, that's good that they came to you in advance, okay? And started talking to you about it.
Isn't that the process? I know you said it's good, but isn't that the process?
No, the process is that the neighborhood association president is advised by the city that case number 2025-27 for a zoning variance doing this, that, and the other is coming to ZBA on such a date. That's it, okay? And that affords the neighborhood officers an opportunity to respond back to the city. Quite frankly, a lot of neighborhoods don't even respond. Some others just say, oh, well, okay, it looks all right. They don't even look into it at all right? So what was happening here is that, again, so Mr. Silverstein, for example, could have just showed up at the actual neighborhood meeting like here and said, here's this great idea I've got, I want you people to vote on it tonight. Okay?
And that would have been the process before.
Right, so in essence, it almost sounds like you're kind of doing this, on a more ad hoc basis before. This formalizes it a little bit, right? And the idea would be that some of those of you who are here tonight and others will have developed an expertise in what it is that, for example, the zoning board is really supposed to look at, right? So that you have an opportunity then to more professionally look into it. But again, remember, this committee is not going to have the authority to actually do anything except provide a report, in essence, to you folks, so that you can then make a more informed decision about what your recommendation should be. I would expect that there would be, again, full hearing, in essence, where after they make that report, then the applicant would speak, and if you want to speak, could speak, and then you decide, what you want. Yes?
But isn't it a part of the process where we do have to vote on their application or their request?
No.
By the city?
No.
Then why does the city send that form to say who took the vote?
However the neighborhood association wants to do it, that's how they do it. It should be like what you're saying. The neighborhood advises the city of what the neighborhood's recommendation is, if they desire to do so. They don't have to respond if they don't want to. The ideal situation is frankly what we're talking about, what you folks basically did. You considered this, right? You considered what Mr. Silverstein wanted, you considered what the church wanted. There was, I met with some folks, there was a lot of people looking into it. And then you had a discussion at the meeting and decided what to do. This is just formalizing that a little bit, right? And that's really all it's actually doing. And ma'am, you asked a question about does the city recognize these committees? I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, but the actual answer I think is that what the city recognizes is the neighborhood association. Period. What does that mean? Okay. When I was chairman, well, I was never really the chairman of the Highland Park Neighborhood Zoning Committee because I was the president at the time. Now I actually am the chairman of it. And so when we presented some things to ZBA, I said who I was, and they listened to me, and they did whatever they wanted to do, right? But I was only there at that hearing at city government under the pleasure of the neighborhood president. The neighborhood president represents the neighborhood, not this committee, right? This committee, again, its rationale is to help you make an informed decision. That's what it's really all about. And again, in terms of the makeup of it, proposal is that the only people who could be on it are people who reside in this community. I think we said at least 18 years old. You want to make that 16, you can, right? Or have a property ownership interest or a business interest here. We kind of added that later on. We wanted to limit that though, so that the majority always is people who literally live here. Now you might say, we really want people who live here. That's fine. That's a potential amendment. This is a draft. The idea again is look it over as quickly as you can, right? So you can get to Todd some ideas for how can we improve this thing. But it's all about informing you. That's what it's about. That's the point of it. Yes, sir.
It's basically protecting the community, correct?
Correct.
Yes. From
ourselves.
Huh?
No, it's protecting.
No.
It's protecting you from being put in a situation where someone comes in without any advanced investigation, has this wonderful idea, sells you a bill of goods. You got to make a decision right then, because ZBA is next week. Then later on you find out there was a whole other story, that if you'd only had more time to really probe into it, you might have found out the truth. That's the idea, so that you don't get blindsided. That's the idea. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little concerned about who we would allow. I'm concerned about who we would allow to be on this committee, because I'm concerned about who we would allow to be on this committee. Basically, I'm trying to say this as delicately as possible, because some of us know some things that's happened. I would be more comfortable, this is just me personally, if we all heard it at the same time, so that there wouldn't be a few people that would form an opinion and then come to this, to us and say, we've studied this, listen to us, we're experts, this is what we should do. Instead of everybody hearing it at the same time and forming their own opinion, everybody having a conversation as a group. For instance, with the St. Peter's thing, there was a meeting on 6/1 after we had the small group meeting with St. Peter's, and Morris came, Todd was there, he asked April Marie to come, she couldn't come, she got Robert to come, I couldn't come, she got Al, I asked Al to go. Because I couldn't go, I asked Al to record the meeting so I could really hear with my own ears what happened. And it was clear to me, with all due respect, that Todd and Morris were there to try to persuade Robert and Al into sending something out to the neighborhood association, asking them to, shaking because I hate saying all this, asking them to delay the vote and wanting St. Peter's to not be able to get their vote on the 5th. And that's what I'm worried about with this committee. If people come and they start saying, for whatever reason, that we all don't hear it at one time and we're not able to, use our eyes and ears and say, okay, this is wrong, somebody has an agenda for whatever reason, why can't we as a group get together and decide this instead of having a small committee come together? I do agree having enough time for us to review things is great, but I am against just because what I saw and reported, and I have a transcript of what everybody can look at and read so you can understand it for yourself, of what the power of a small committee has to give this, and the people that most people weren't paying attention, they're not coming to these meetings. I just happened to know about it. I'm so sorry, I'm shaking. I just happened to know about it because I was really involved, and I really want St. Peter's here in our community. And there were leaders that were not for it, and they were giving out misinformation about all sorts of things. And so we were trying to, make sure that the neighborhood knew this. And anyway, I'm going on and on, but I'm worried about having a small committee that would give information that maybe isn't the total picture.
Yeah, and I'll respond just a second, if I could. And certainly whatever I said that was recorded, I'm happy for people to hear all of that. What I was giving at that meeting, and Todd, all right, so again, what happened, as I understand it, is, Todd knows the Highland Park neighborhood president very well, Elizabeth Sanfilippo, and she connected us up because, should I say it, she calls me the neighborhood zoning pervert, I think is what it is. Because I do know a lot about this, and what I was attempting to do that day was to impart my knowledge as a former zoning board member of the specific parameters that a zoning board is supposed to look into, okay? And also in my experience with the zoning board, there would often be times where an applicant would come forward in good faith, present something, and then we'd be looking at it and say, well, did you think about this? Did you think about that? We would call for a continuance, so there'd be an opportunity for that applicant to work with the community, to work with the staff at City Hall to perfect the proposal, okay? Now, in terms of, is it Hallie? What you suggested, that's fine. In essence, you're saying that the neighborhood association should be like a committee of the whole. You hear it, in meeting number 1, and then you postpone it for review of some sort, and then you make a decision in hearing number 2. You can do that if you want to, but again, what often happens is, just like here, right? The developer, for some reason or another, legitimate reasons, needs to get a decision from ZBA quickly. So if you're doing it that way, then you're going to have a situation where you're delaying them at least a month, which is fine if necessary. And the city basically will accept a request from the neighborhood association to do at least a 1-month continuance or a 1-meeting continuance, because they meet every 2 weeks. But they don't have to, right? So again, the overarching thing here is just to provide an opportunity to have I'll call it more professional review by you folks, right? And then, again, there's nothing the committee is not going to come in here and say, this is what you shall do, okay? The committee is going to come in here and say, we met with the developer and, other people that we believe are interested in this. Here's what our findings and recommendation are. Then it gets turned over to anybody who wants to speak, just like right now, and then y'all decide what the recommendation, will be going to ZBA from the neighborhood. Yes?
On my last statement, and to Hallie's point, how do we know that the people on the committee, if we choose or vote to have this committee, do not have their own personal agendas and only present us the information that they want to share with us?
Right. The answer to that, first of all, is that if any of them actually have a conflict of interest, then they should be recused from that case. Full stop, all right? Now, having said that again, so they would come, let's say, I'll use a certain church as an example, right? And let's say this committee comes up and says, we're recommending no on this thing because this church does not meet this requirement or that requirement or this or that or the other. It's going to be terrible, right? After they make that report, what happens next? the church and their representatives address you. They tell you their side of the story. Then what happens next? And Todd says, is there anyone else here who wishes to speak to it? And each of you get to speak to it. So all it's doing is providing an opportunity, again, for a committee that has taken the effort to know more about zoning, right? What you're supposed to be looking for, to meet with that developer, or someone who wants to build a shed in their backyard, and then, finds out the neighbor next door is against it because it's right up against their tomato garden, right? Maybe they could have met with them and said, if you move it back 3 feet, it's not going to shade his tomatoes. And you're like, okay, I can do that. It's to work on those kinds of things in advance, rather than getting dumped on the neighborhood, with, hey, ZBA meeting's next week, we need a decision right now. So that's all it is. It doesn't take away from any of your recommendations or decision-making authority. And as you look at this over the next month, if you see something that is problematic like that, that's what you need to report to Todd. If there's something in here that looks dicey, talk about it, pull it out, throw it out, it don't belong in there, okay? I don't want you to decide, it's not my choice. I don't want you to decide this tonight. We don't want to dump it on you, just like what we're trying to prevent with here. It's for you to take under advisement, consider next month.
I think that
What?
you
Hold up.
did
You're not recognized yet.
He did raise his hand.
Yeah, we'll get to you in a second again, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Why are we letting a select few, if this committee comes to fruition?
Right.
Or even if it doesn't, a select few, like in the Silverstein group, the president and maybe 1 or 2 other people know about this 2-3 months in advance, and then we're hearing about it. Why don't we get to hear that information?
The whole point
right
is to avoid that.
Well,
No, because as you were saying, they get to do their research, they see the pros and cons, and it's presented to us. That's not what you're saying. I want to find this out. They can call, Waterworks, all this stuff, do that research while we know,
The neighborhood's going to understand it. Like if Silverstein had come to the neighborhood before they didn't announce anything, they would come to us.
He did 2-3 months in advance. We found out 4 days before a vote.
Because of the small group.
Yeah, exactly.
Because our president got the notice on September the 2nd and didn't know what she had. And I got thrown under the bus because I did not tell anybody about Mr. Silverstein, where at 2 meetings he was talking about it and said, we need to put this on next one. Oh, please don't, Ms. White. Please don't. So the Sly 5 Stone group, well,
He doesn't control this neighborhood. This group, the president, whoever represents us, we need to be
I'm gonna read this for you.
informed. I don't agree. This, like, the Silverstein wants to keep it hush hush. Tell them to kick rocks.
Okay,
Right.
sir, I have the answer to your
Exactly.
question. It's on page 3 of the proposal.
But
Okay?
we should find out. We
That's,
don't want that
that's,
committee.
that's what I'm about to read to you.
That's not what was said earlier.
Well, under the section entitled reporting, and again, you can tweak this if this isn't strong enough. Upon receipt of a case assigned, which, again, the case assignment comes in, he finds something from the city, he alerts the committee. That's the assignment of the case. Upon receipt of a case assigned, monthly updates at neighbor association meetings, continually updated full transparency via neighbor association website, tools to be created, shared drive for documents, public comment portal. So the idea, as I understand it, Todd, is that it's not going to be this secretive committee, right? Only they are going to know what's going on. It's going to be the case comes in, he's going to do 2 things at the same time. If you can do 2 things literally at the same time. Alert the chairman of the committee, hey, we got a live one here for you to look into, and then he's going to post it to the neighborhood association public portal, right? So that people can know this case is coming to us. You can weigh in there. You can say, hey, committee, come talk to me. I got something I want to tell you about this, right? There's provisions for that in here too, for the committee, if it's requested, to actually have a public meeting about it, as opposed to meeting one-on-one with folk, right? So again, the idea behind this is full transparency, full opportunity for everybody to engage in things, and as I'm suggesting, if you see something in here that's not achieving that, or can achieve it better, that's what you need to let Todd know about, and then you folks can consider that next month or whenever it is that you're voting on it, because the idea is to enhance transparency and professionalism. Yes, sir.
So the meeting that Hallie brought up, I thought we actually did the opposite of that when I met with y'all.
Mhm.
I literally felt like we were trying to figure out how to stonewall this process to get this church to move on.
Right.
And I was actually quite pissed off walking away from there, because I sat there and I said, what was this meeting about? We're sitting here and we're trying to basically take it away from our group from voting or looking at it, because we're trying to put together saying, hey, we need to push it off. And the whole reason why we were trying to push it off is to get the church to say, you know what, this is not going to be an easy battle. We need to move on. So if that's the intent of this group, I am completely against it.
Right.
I think that this information needs to go straight to our group, to the neighborhood, as quickly and as fast as possible, and then we can start gathering our own information. We seem to have done that with Silverstein, and we did that with the church, and everyone voted appropriately on both situations. Where this and what was going to be an email that was sent out to the neighborhood would not have represented us to try to push it off. And I was not happy with it, I did not like it, and I don't want to be a part of a group that does that.
Yeah.
So if that's what this group is to do, then
That's fair enough. It's absolutely not what the intent is. And just again, to speak about what I was doing there that day, okay? Again, based on my experience, you know, primarily as zoning board chairman, not so much a neighborhood president, I know what the zoning board is supposed to look at, okay? There's like 5 parameters that you have to find on ZBA in order to approve a variance. This request was for front yard parking, okay? The city council, in its infinite wisdom, you know, said you shall not park in a front yard. And by the way, a quote-unquote side yard that's along the street, that's a front yard, folks, right? You live on a corner lot, you got 2 front yards. Sometimes I feel like I got 2 left feet, but that's 2 front yards. Okay. So I had not seen the site before. Todd wanted me to come out to meet with him about it. I at least did not go out there with a predisposed position, although I had seen some documentation of what the layout was going to be like, and I was quite frankly suspicious, okay? And I think I relate to yourself, sir, and to the others, that I'm like, okay, remember, in order for ZBA, the threshold question, first of all, is there something specifically unique, getting into the weeds here, about this particular property that causes an unnecessary hardship, okay? And necessary hardship, by the way, is what the code says. No parking in the front yard, okay? But is there something about this particular piece of land that would essentially require, under any reasonable standard, that they be allowed to park in the front yard, okay? I think you might have mentioned something that tweaked my interest a little bit, which was, okay, if they can't park in the backyard because there's some problematic volcano or drainage issue, that puts them in the ballgame. See, that's something unique about the property. But I'm also looking at it, and it's basically a more or less flat rectangle, and there's a church that's been there, and they didn't have to do it. So I was suspicious. And I was thinking, okay, perhaps what you guys should do is meet with this church developer, right, and say, hey, look, we hear your troubles. Is there a way to make this so that, A, you don't have to park in the front yard, because that's in everybody's interest if you don't, right? No. It's in the interest of the code.
May I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
This all got approved at the BCA meeting 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I don't think we need to debate that.
Oh, sure.
And I know the three of you shut up, and Todd spoke against the ordinance, even though he said he wasn't. I don't think we need to debate this in the interest of everybody's time going to meet.
That's fine.
The BCA did not agree with you and Todd, and they voted to advance this.
Right.
So I'm not trying to cut you off, but I know there's people that want to.
Right, no,
You don't need to rehash.
yeah,
it.
just to sum up, I gave my professional opinion about what it looked like to me. Go ahead.
I'd like to motion to close this conversation to Amy's meeting.
Okay, turn it over to you.
And move, can I get a second?
And then anybody that wants to hear his story can talk after. I mean, it's a moot point. Your opinion mattered at that meeting. Todd stood up and shared your points.
Yeah, I didn't speak at the, ZBA hearing.
It's my opinion,
Point of order, I'd like to make
Yeah.
a motion to delay the vote of this committee
There's no
until
vote
the
tonight.
August well, I'd like to make a motion to delay the vote of this committee until the August meeting.
to what committee?
So that we can have
There's
more
no
time
committee.
to collect information and work through this.
And maybe have like a work session, maybe neighbors who were interested.
All in favor of delaying this vote until August?
Aye.
How many? 1, 2, 3,
Raise your
4,
hand
5,
if you vote yes.
I wanna ask
6,
him a
7,
question
8,
now.
9.
Is it
Right,
my-
but hang on to your question, ma'am. I'm willing to stay as late as we need to, but yeah, go ahead and finish the more formal part here.
Oh, I thought it was finished. All right, I can ask you after the
Okay.
meeting.
Yes, we want
So
to
the,
delay
just,
the vote.
just FYI, the CPP allows the president to form his own committee, and I can do that on my own if I want to. I'm trying to do it this way, so it's much more involved.
You're not trying to do it.
And all opposed to delaying it until August. 4, okay.
We're gonna have more discussion on it then at the next meeting?
Yeah, we can have more discussion at the next meeting. Just one more meeting of discussion, right?
Yeah.
What you
And
doing?
again, if anybody has any other questions they want to ask me right now, you're welcome to.
And there's no reason we have to do it in August either. If we want to delay it even further, we can do that.
Just want to get it right.
What else?
Ma'am, you were,
Well,
hang on a second. This lady here was being patient. Go ahead.
Well, can I make a point of order? Can I make a point of order really quickly? There were a couple violations in this meeting. I really appreciate you coming, but you should have come and spoken after the meeting. So, I wanna.
No, that's wrong.
Yes, it is wrong, and
That's wrong.
it is wrong, and I talked to India about it outside.
It could be done before or after.
She said it is supposed to be done after. Her
The city
ordinance
attorney says it could be done before or after.
And the CPP. Secondly.
What we did was appropriate tonight.
Secondly, it was not appropriate. I apologize for saying that.
No, I mean, what he's saying is actually right. You don't have an actual official meeting until the meeting has been called.
Yes.
So your meeting wasn't called and he knew,
Right.
in fact, he asked you to come to the meeting.
Yes.
So
and
as
it's-
long as, hold on, I'm good.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the policy, then the policy is, according to the new policy, by the way, that the city is doing, is that you can have it before the meeting or after the meeting, but the meeting cannot be held or while you're talking about any kind of candidacy during the meeting. So that's why he asked me to come ahead of you in your
So maybe
official
we
call.
can do that.
I would also like to make a motion to have the agenda be clarified before the meeting. If it is going to be a delayed start, your speech took about an hour. So if it is gonna be before the meeting, I'd like to know what time the meeting is actually going to start and when we should show
Because
up.
it said we were starting at 6.
Because it did say we were starting at 6, and it did not specify that you were coming before and talking before the meeting in terms of timeline and
Fair
how
enough.
long that was gonna take.
Not your fault.
You probably got a lot.
What else, Don?
It was a
I
lot.
move we adjourn.
I second.
Yeah, I'll just say that there's yeah, is Katie Harris here?
Wait, did we not vote?
Is Katie Harris here? Good.
Wait, we closed the meeting, Todd.
Yeah, good.
We made a motion and we seconded it. So
I
the
never
meeting's
heard it.
done.
Well, it should be a vote on adjournment.
Great. All right, thanks, everybody.